Session with Say My Name. So, Anna, Rolling Stone labelled your singing unforgettable. So, I mean, you've come a long way, haven't you, since we first met, or first got in touch, in fact, after the album A Common Turn.
Definitely, yeah. It's been a wild old ride. And yeah, I'm grateful for every moment. It's still, to be honest, it still doesn't quite feel real. So it's quite funny to be doing this in person, literally being in this room and still being like, is this happening?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I have written further down in my notes, because I do a little bit of research. You can't tell, but I do. But it's a phrase that I hadn't actually heard of until like probably a year ago, something like that, which is the imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Which it really saddens me whenever I hear it, and particularly, you know, I mean, I'm not just saying this, you know, I mean it. You're riddled with talent. You're so great, and yet you wouldn't have the confidence to believe that in yourself at one point in time.
Yeah, it's true. It's a funny old dance. Still trying to make this career while also, sometimes having crippling self-esteem. But let me tell you, also sometimes I am seriously arrogant, and you wouldn't be able to stop me from being like, I am the best. I mean, it lasts for about 10 seconds, but it feels pretty good.
Oh, you know, I mean, I've never been there, but I can imagine. And you do need to straddle that, really, because, I mean, were you aware of how great A Common Turn was when you'd finished it?
I mean, you can hope. I hoped that it was as great as it felt. But yeah, it's so hard to know, because everything's so individualized and so specific to people, isn't it? So like one person could be like, this is the best thing I've ever heard, and another person could be like, I do not understand what's going on and why is she wobbling.
It was a really important album for a lot of people, myself included, during lockdown. But within the album, you do say, is anyone listening? So that self-doubt was there when you were writing it, even if it wasn't actually as it was being laid down. Yeah,
it took me a really long time to write it. And then it took me a really long time to find Will and be, confident enough to be like, Will, I'm going to give you all my savings and we're going to make this record. And then it still took a long time for it to find a home in the wonderful City Slang. And then it took ages for it to come out. So it was... everything feels super sweet now because of those, slightly elongated pauses that maybe I hadn't anticipated.
Yeah, and there is a joke in there somewhere about finding the will to go on, but I won't crack it because this is a serious music programme. It's just a remarkable album. And I've not heard your new record yet. I've heard some of it, obviously, and we've been playing it. So you are now known, and you are known for, being very open about relationships and wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah, potentially to my detriment sometimes, but it feels all right so far.
It is, I mean, I don't want to get too serious because that really isn't me, but is it kind of cathartic for you? Do you feel you can move on once you've actually written it and sung it?
Sometimes, yeah. It's kind of interesting, especially for this next album. It feels, in retrospect, it feels a lot to do with being in therapy and kind of having this like therapeutic process that I've been going through. And actually, interestingly, that song I just played, I actually worked on that with my therapist because I actually couldn't quite understand the emotion that was happening behind it while I was writing it. And I'm quite proud of myself because every time I've played that in a public setting, I've then wept afterwards. So I'm, proud of myself for holding it together today.
Well, I started crying halfway through, so I mean...
sorry.
By proxy, probably, I would say. Are you looking forward to making a Knees Up record, then?
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun.
Your next album's going to be like Chaz and Dave.
Yeah.
I can blooming guarantee it. You'll be listening to Snooker Loopy on the way home, and then that's going to be the direction. That's what I predict. So tell me then, like I say, I've not heard Influx, which is a new album out on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the mood of that, and what was the kind of... Because you have been through this big part of your life and success coming to you and everything.
Yeah.
Is that reflected in the album?
Yeah, the album is actually... And I wanted to put these two songs next to each other because I feel like the album kind of charts the inconsistencies and the dualities that I think everyone feels as a human, but I feel like really feel pertinent as an artist. I have A Common Turn, which definitely felt very introspective and very kind of tender and...
vulnerable,
yeah, and sometimes a little bit self-flagellatory. And this next album, it has traces of that because that is still within me. But I also really wanted to try and express the kind of, I guess, contentedness and like having a nice time. And I wanted to have a nice time while I was writing it, because writing the first one had felt so like almost impossible for me. So yeah, I guess I wanted to show the full breadth of what I can do, because also I feel like people were really surprised when they spoke to me after only having listened to A Common Turn, because they were like, oh, you're kind of like silly and giggly and, you know, you're kind of fun. We thought you were just going to be a bit morose all the time and introspective.
Right.
So I guess I wanted to show off a little bit of that, kind of a little bit more of that fun side, and maybe make people dance.
Yeah, of course, and why not? And we're mentioning Will. We're talking Will Doyle, East India youth.
Yeah.
I go back so far with him to Doyle and the Forefathers, which must have been, I don't know, 12 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. But this album was recorded with another old friend of the programme, Mike Lindsay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we went... I was introduced to Mike as someone who I should potentially do my second album with. So it was quite, you know, it felt quite high octane. But we met and we really got on, and we did a couple of days kind of tester session, and then we just got straight into it. And it was so wonderful working with him. I've been so blessed with the two people that I've made albums with.
Right, well, you can tell by listening to them. And so I believe you've got a master's degree in popular music.
I do now, yeah. I
Right.
did that during the pandemic.
Right, OK. Well, Miss Clever Clogs, tell me who
I didn't
played...
do very well.
Hang on a minute. Tell me
Sorry.
who played drums on Don't You Want Me Baby by The Human League?
Oh, I literally don't have a clue.
Well, you can see. I mean, I think, you know...
I can sing it to you, but I'm sorry.
I'm being facetious. There was no drummer on it anyway. It was drum machines all the way through. And
You tricked me.
I did, because I'm evil.
My goodness.
You didn't realise, did you? OK, so how's life in Dublin?
Dublin was really good. I actually live back in London now. I've been just running around different places, just trying to, you know, catch people out. This is my own trick.
Right, OK, very good. Well, it's one each then.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. That is fair. I'll take that on the chin. All right, well, it's just great to see you. It's great to hear you. And
So lovely to be here.
So much looking forward to the last tune from Yana and a B Savage live in session. So what is this one?
This one's called The Orange. It's going to take me a tiny moment just to retune my guitar, but this